doing?
Oh, I'm just looking up this new topic on the physics SAT. It's called metamaterials.
Oh, I can teach you more about that.
So after doing some more in-depth research, we found that metamaterials are artificial materials that exhibit electromagnetic properties that don't occur naturally. Victor Veselago, a Russian physicist, was the first to theorize the properties of metamaterials, focusing on its ability to create a negative index of refraction. Elena Simochka, a researcher at Michigan Technological University, found that the refraction in metamaterials is affected by the geometric properties of the meta-atoms. Now, meta-atoms are what makes up metamaterials, and they're comprised of individual elements that are sized smaller than the wavelength it interacts with. The meta-atoms are made from profit-friendly materials such as metals or plastics, but the way that they're shaped and formed affect the way that light interacts with them, creating the strange effects involving refraction. A simple way to explain this phenomenon uses a metaphor of antennas. Before there was cable or satellite, we would use antennas to watch shows on television. Sometimes the connection could be off and images would be grainy or choppy. To counteract, we would physically alter the angle of the antenna to achieve a better connection, similar to the way meta-atoms bend light to form strange results. Researchers are now working to create nanoscale antennae that respond to visible light with wavelengths of 400 to 700 nanometers, or infrared light with wavelengths on the level of a micron. By changing the geometric shape of these antennas, they can engineer systems that manipulate and interact with light in different ways. Nowadays, incorporating metamaterials in antennas can increase the radiated power by 95% of an input radio signal, covering a wider frequency range.
Application of metamaterials is a concept called superlens, in which a lens can go beyond the diffraction limit. And a diffraction limit is a component that of a normal lens that limits the exactness of their resolution. Another application of metamaterials we'll be talking about is the concept of seismic filtering. Seismic metamaterials counteract the unfavorable effects of seismic waves on man-made structures. Last year, physicists at universities in South Korea and Australia were able to develop a model for a seismic invisibility cloak. The seismic cloak can protect buildings during earthquakes, for example. A French team was the first to build and test it, and they found that metamaterials that absorb rather than reflect seismic waves are a good choice. The application we're most interested in and focus on involves cloaking or invisibility, which can be used in active camouflage in warfare and even in the operating room. Invisibility has been experimented in the works of science fiction and fantasy for decades now, but physicists are just now beginning to think they can make devices with properties using metamaterials. The metamaterials used to make invisibility cloaks are made of a grid with spacing between elements less than the wavelength of the light the physicist wants to bend. The silk-made cloak uses split ring resonators, which are concentric pairs of rings with splits at opposite ends. As silk isn't directly rejected by the human body, it is thought they could be used to coat internal organs so surgeons can see what lies behind them.
To conclude, metamaterials are artificial products that procures an illusion using a negative index of refraction by bending light and changing the shape of the atoms that make it up.
And we can apply metamaterials to several world problems such as antennas and satellites, superlenses and infinite resolution, seismic cloaks in protecting man-made structures, and invisibility on the battlefield and OR.